Good morning, class 9. Today we shall revise something in grammar. We have done lot of work in reader. We have revised reader also. Now today let us focus on grammar revision. Let us begin with tenses. I had taught you earlier that there are three types of tenses: the present tense, past tense and future tense. The present tense is further classified into four categories: simple present tense, present continuous, present perfect and present perfect continuous. Similarly, the past tense: simple past, past continuous, past perfect continuous. Then future tense: simple future, first is simple future, then future continuous, then future perfect, then future perfect continuous. So once you understand the simple things which you have to remember in converting simple present into present continuous or present continuous into present perfect tense, etc. Once you understand for present tense, almost it is similar for past tense and future tense, which with a little bit of changes here and there. Okay, so let us revise what we did earlier in tenses. In the simple present tense, I had taught you that simple present tense shows things happening in the present, a habitual action or a universal truth. Habitual action, that means anything that is done as a matter of habit. You do it every day. Like in the morning you get up and you brush your teeth. It is your habit. You never forget it. Then universal truth. Those things which always happen, you can't change it. It is not in your control. Like the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. The earth revolves round the sun. All these are universal truth. You can't control them, you can't change them. Now, please keep in mind that the pattern of your question paper is going to be multiple choice questions. Okay, so in multiple choice questions, as you can understand, that 4 choices will be given to you and you will have to click on the correct option. So what your focus should be on while you prepare is that you don't have to go into the detail of the literature chapters. Detail in the sense, you don't have to learn the question answers for this test. For this test, for the first online test, which is going to be multiple choice question type, you don't have to learn anything, any answer in literature or any answer in the poem, and you will not be getting lengthy exercises to solve in grammar. Everything will be multiple choice, in the multiple choice form. So what your requirement is, whether it is grammar or whether it is reader or supplementary reader, you have to just read the chapters very thoroughly. You should not miss out reading of the lessons, because any line from any chapter, any minute detail from any poem, the name of the poet, etc., anything can be asked in the form of multiple choice questions. Similarly in grammar, suppose I give you a sentence that I am writing a letter. This sentence is in first option simple present, second option present continuous, third option past continuous, fourth option past perfect. So your answer should be present continuous, because it is, the verb is am writing, present continuous. So this way questions will be put up. Okay, so if you know the answer, if you know the rules, then you will just click on the correct answer and your work is done and you are getting 1 mark. But if you will do guesswork or if you will waste time in thinking, then you will not be able to complete the test, because the clock will stop automatically, the test will stop automatically and you will not be able to do anything further. So do not waste your time in learning lengthy answers or learning the short answers or doing exercise after exercise in grammar for practice. Don't do that. In literature, in supplementary reader as well as in reader, read the poems, read the chapters very, very thoroughly. You should know every minutest detail in the poem, in the chapters. Similarly, in grammar, you should know all the rules very properly. If you know the rule, automatically you will know the answer, whatever question will be put up. Okay, so let us continue. So if I give you, for example, a sentence, I get up early every day. This sentence is in first option simple present, second option simple past, third option present continuous, and fourth option all of the above. Then what is going to be your answer? Simple present, because the sentence is I get up early every day. This shows a habit, and the sentence is in simple present tense. So such type of things will be put up. In this way they will be put up. Okay, I have also sent you a practice exercise in the PDF, which you must see so that you get an idea that how questions will be put up and how you have to answer them. Then next is present continuous tense. As the heading itself suggests, that the work has been started in the present time and it is still going on at the time of speaking. Present continuous. It is used to express an activity happening at the time of speaking. As I gave you one example, I am writing a letter. Am shows that it is present tense. Writing, the verb is write and ing has been added, which makes it continuous tense. Next is present perfect. It is used to denote an action completed in the immediate past. Present perfect, the action started in the present and at the time of speaking it is perfectly complete. Okay, so what you have to add, has or have plus third form of the verb. Example I gave you earlier also, I have stopped writing. Have shows it is present tense and stopped, verb is stop. You have to write the third form of the verb, which becomes stopped. So this becomes present perfect tense. Present perfect continuous. It is used to express an action that began in the past and has been in progress till the time of speaking. The action began in the past. Past here does not mean that it began 3 days back. No. Suppose you started some action today in the morning at 8 o'clock and you are talking about that action at 5 o'clock in the evening. So you are going to refer to it as a past action. That means you started it some hours back, but some part of the action is over, some part of the work is complete, and some part is still in progress. For example, we have been participating in the play for 3 years. This is also, such type of sentences are also taken in present perfect continuous for 3 years. Now you will say 3 years time is a long time. Many years have passed, 3 years we are talking about. But here it shows that the process which began 3 years back is still going on. The process of participation in the play started 3 years back and still every year it is taking place, and this year also it took place. So that is why it will come under present perfect continuous tense. So the form of simple present tense is he or she or it plus the first form of the verb plus s or es. Then present continuous, subject plus is, are, am plus the first form of the verb plus ing plus object. Present perfect, subject plus has or have plus the third form of the verb plus object. Present perfect continuous, subject plus has or have plus been. This is an addition here. subject plus has or have plus been plus first form of the verb plus ing plus since or for and then the time. Since 3 years, since morning, etc. Now come to the past tense. As we did simple present, similarly it is simple past. The only change is in simple present we write s or es, and we use words like is, are, am, and in this simple past we add ed to the verb. Simple past tense expresses an action completed in the past or any habit of the past. For example, yesterday Rima visited her aunt. Visit is the verb. You have added ed and it becomes simple past tense. The form is subject plus the second form of the verb plus object. Past continuous. Again, past continuous means the work started in the past and is still going on. It expresses an action in progress at a particular time in the past. The work started in the past and it was going on in the past time itself. For example, he was writing an essay when I saw him. Was writing. Was shows that we are talking about past tense. Writing, that means to the verb write you have added ing, it becomes the continuous form of verb and then it is called as past continuous. Similarly, past perfect. It is used to express an action which was completed just before or sometime before the second action in the past. Suppose two actions started at the same time in the past, then the first action started before the second action. I am telling one example. He had taken his breakfast when his mother arrived. First action was already over before the second action began. He had taken his breakfast. That means the action of eating breakfast by him was over when his mother arrived. Arrival of the mother shows the second action. So, what is the form of past continuous? Subject plus was or were depending upon singular or plural type of sentence, then first form of the verb plus ing and the object. Then the form of past perfect is subject plus had, because it is past tense, so you have to add had plus the third form of the verb and the object. Now past perfect continuous tense. It expresses an action that was finished at some time in the past but which had been going on before it was finished or had recently finished. I am repeating this. Past perfect continuous expresses an action that was finished at some time, some definite time in the past, but which had been going on before it was finished or had recently finished. That means the work began in the past and it was going on just the moment when we were talking about that work which was going on, just at that time it was finished. The work started in the past and it was some part of the work was complete also, but the remaining part was going on and it was just completed at the time when the person was mentioning about that work or talking about that work. For example, Ramesh had been working in this factory since he came to Delhi. Now this shows another rule here. It also expresses a repeated action of the past. Past perfect continuous also shows repeated action of the past. So the example is, Ramesh had been working in this factory since he came to Delhi. The work of working in the factory is repeated action. Then second example, Geeta had been trying since morning to contact her friend. It is also a repeated action. Now the form is subject plus had been. Had been is added in this, plus the first form of the verb plus ing, then the object, then since or for, and then the time, that is since morning or since he came to Delhi, etc. Now simple future. It is used to describe an action that will take place in the future, to express the speaker's opinion about the future, to express habitual actions which are likely to take place, to express announcements of future plans and weather forecasts. So for such situations, simple future tense is used. Like, I will bring the book. Simply by seeing the word will, you can easily come to the conclusion that it is simple future tense. The sky is overcast. It will rain today. Again, it is about the weather forecast. The sky is overcast. That means it is full of dark clouds and it will rain today. The floods will continue to recede now. It is about the announcements about the future or something which is likely to happen in the future. The flood waters will continue to recede now. They will continue to go back now. So the form is subject plus will or shall plus first form of the verb plus object. Future continuous. It expresses an action that will be going on at the time of speaking. The work will be started in the future and it will go on at the time of speaking. You shall be giving the lecture tonight. You shall be giving. Shall is future tense and give is the verb. Here you have to remember, children, that you have to add be. Shall be giving or will be giving, depending upon what is the kind of sentence. So the form is subject plus will or shall plus be plus first form of the verb plus ing and the object. Future perfect tense. It is used to express an action that will have been completed in future by a certain time. The work which is going to start in the future, it will be completed in the future at a specific time, by a certain time. Like, by tomorrow, time is specified. By tomorrow, I shall have bought the new cycle. The action will take place tomorrow, but the action will take place in the future, but you know when in future. It is not uncertain. That is why you are mentioning the time tomorrow. Then future perfect continuous tense. It denotes an action that will be finished at some time in the future, but which had been going on before it was finished. I am reading again. Future perfect tense denotes an action that will be finished at some definite time in the future, but which had been going on before it was finished. It will start in the future, it will finish in the future, but we will see that the work is in progress in the future just at the time before it is scheduled to get over. For example, you will have been celebrating your birthday tomorrow this time. The time is specified. Birthday is in future tense, that is tomorrow. The time is specified, and the person is saying that at this specific time, at this definite time, tomorrow, this process of celebrating the birthday will be going on. That means, supposing you have invited your friends at 5 o'clock in the evening for the birthday party, and the party will obviously continue for 2-3 hours. So the work which will start tomorrow at 5 in the evening will be seen to be continuing in the future time for some hours. Work will start tomorrow. Some part of the work will be over also. That means the party which will start at 5, and suppose you are describing the work at 8 o'clock. So the party started, some time has passed, will have passed. We are talking about the future tense. Some time will have passed, but the action of celebration will be in progress. So this is the way you will have to keep the rules in mind. You don't have to mug up anything. You don't have to learn anything in grammar, but keep revising the rules so that you are not at all confused. Now let us do another chapter today, that is modal verbs. This is also very important, children, and you have done modal verbs earlier in some class in April or May, or maybe in July, in the first week or second week of July, you have done modal verbs. That is why today I am just going to brush up the topic with you. I am just going to revise the rules with you, because you have already studied this earlier. Modal verbs. Modals are verbs used to express the mood or attitude of the speaker. There are some specific modal verbs which I am going to discuss today with you along with their uses. So just keep on revising things properly, whatever you have written earlier as far as the rules of modals are concerned. The first modal is has to or have to. Has to or have to are used to express some compulsion, necessity or obligation in the present or future tenses. Some compulsion, something which is compulsory, you have to do it. Suppose I give you a homework and I say you have to complete this homework before 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That means I have made it compulsory for you to complete it. It is a compulsion. And or in other words, there can be a sentence showing necessity. Like one example I am reading out for necessity. I have to withdraw money from the bank. It is a necessity. The person is in need of money. So he is saying I have to withdraw. There is no other option. Then third is obligation. Obligation is suppose I say I have to return the money to him before the day gets over today. That means you have to do it. It is like a compulsion again. Obligation is also very similar to compulsion, and it shows that you have to do a certain work as a matter of your duty. Like it is your duty, you have to do it. You can't ignore it. You can't skip it. Okay. So this is how you have to revise the rules. I am giving you one example also. Suppose the sentence is Rajendra dash to finish his work on time. Now I give you 4 options. Rajendra has to, Rajendra have to, Rajendra must, or Rajendra mustn't. Mustn't means must not. Now your answer should be Rajendra has to. Rajendra is a singular subject, so you can't write have to. Then since to is there in the sentence, so you can't write must to, or you can't write mustn't to. This is wrong English totally. So just simple sentences will be put up to you. Don't get confused. Don't worry at all. Just keep revising the rules. That's all you have to do. Now come to the next. Must. Must doesn't have a past tense. Must is used as must. It doesn't have a past tense. We use must to talk about the present and the future. Then must is used to show compulsion, like he must work hard in order to pass. To show duty, like you must help your neighbors. Third, necessity. If you want to reach on time, you must run fast. Next is logical certainty. It is getting dark. She must have left already. Logical certainty. That means you are saying something, you are giving a logic, you are giving a reason. It is getting dark. She must have left already. Then mustn't. Mustn't means must not. It is used to convey the sense of obligation or compulsion, as in the case of must, but it is showing a negative sense or a negative meaning. Then the next is should or shouldn't. Should is used in all persons to express a duty or obligation. For example, you should obey the laws. It is your duty, it is your obligation. Then, children should not write on the walls. Again, it is your duty that you should keep the walls clean. Should is used to express caution or purpose, like work hard, otherwise lest you should fail. With lest we always write should. Walk carefully, lest you should fall. Then should is also used with advice. You should not speak loudly. She should learn the facts properly. All these are advices. Then guess or supposition. That means you suppose something, you guess something. It shouldn't rain. The sky is clear. You are guessing that the sky is clear, it should not rain. If my father should see me at the restaurant, he will be annoyed. Again, you are guessing that if my father sees me in the restaurant, he should get annoyed. Then another modal verb is need. Need is used to express necessity or obligation. For example, need I tell you more? That means, is there any requirement, is there any necessity to tell you more? And it is generally used in interrogative sentences in the present tense. Need not is used to make the sentence negative. Ought to. This is very important, children. Ought to is a very important modal verb. Ought to generally shows obligation. Obligation means, again, it is, in other words, it is a kind of compulsion. That means you have to do it, you should do. You don't have any choice. For example, we ought to respect our elders. We ought to. That means, in other words, it is showing the meaning of must. We ought to respect our elders. That means the meaning is coming out, we must respect our elders. But in such kind of sentences, we write ought to instead of writing must. Then ought to also shows duty. For example, we ought to help the poor. We ought to help the poor. So whenever you have to show obligation or whenever you have to show duty, you should write ought to. Next, probability. Ought to is also used to show probability, some possibility, like the prices of onions ought to come down now. Probability, that means a possibility, a chance. Then a logical deduction. The book has been received well. It ought to fetch a good price. Logical deduction, that means you are making a logical conclusion. The book has been received well. It ought to fetch a good price. That means the book should be well sold in the market. It should make profit. So in the exam, again I am repeating, you will not get sentences after sentences to fill in the blanks. No, multiple choice. 4 choices will be given to you and you have to mark the correct choice. Now we are left with one more topic, that is subject-verb concord. Subject-verb concord, this is a topic, children, which we use in our day-to-day English, when we speak English or when we write English. But here also, children, the rules are very important. I am going to explain the rules and I will read out one example also for all the rules so that you know how you have to revise, what you have to revise. Subject-verb concord. That means the coordination or balance between the subject and the verb. Okay, now the first rule. A singular subject takes the verb in singular and the plural subject takes the verb in the plural. You know this. Like if I say, I am doing my work. I am. I is singular subject. So the verb here is, the helping verb is am. I am doing my work. You will never write I are doing my work. You will never write, because you know very well that are is used with plural. So with a singular subject we use a singular verb, with a plural subject we use a plural verb. Example, Nana goes for a walk every day. Nana is a singular subject, so goes is a singular verb. You will never write a plural verb for this, like go. Second rule, two or more singular nouns or pronouns joined by and generally take a plural verb. These rules, children, you should learn. Okay. Two or more singular nouns take a plural verb. For example, she and I were playing. She and I. There are two singular nouns or two plural nouns in the sentence. In this sentence, there are two plural nouns. There are two pronouns. Very sorry. There are two pronouns. She is also a pronoun. I is also a pronoun. So if there are two pronouns joined by and, then you have to write a plural verb. She and I were playing. Third rule, when two singular nouns refer to the same person, the verb is singular. For example, her friend and classmate is dead. When we are talking about two singular nouns, but those singular nouns are referring to one person only, then we will use a singular subject. Her friend and classmate, both friend and classmate was one person. That is why we will use a singular subject, a singular verb, sorry. Her friend and classmate is dead. We will not write are dead. We are not talking about two persons who are dead here. We are talking about one person only who is dead. That is why whenever we see two singular nouns in the sentence, but we are referring to the same person in both, then the verb will be singular. Next rule, when singular subject is qualified by each, every, neither or either, the verb must be in singular. If the sentence starts with either, neither, each, every, the verb will be in singular. For example, each of you has to attend the match. You will not write each of you have to attend. Each of you, that means we are talking about each individual. We are talking about each singular person. That is why we will use the verb singular. Singular verb is going to be used. Each of you has